Welcome back to Shocking Stories, where we uncover the most chilling true crime cases that blur the line between reality and the impossible. I'm your host, and today we're diving deep into the digital age's newest nightmare, a case that will make you question everything you think you know about death, technology, and the secrets that follow us into the grave. If you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because what you're about to hear will haunt your dreams and make you think twice about every social media post you see. This is the story of Madison Park, a 20-year-old computer science major at Northwestern University whose tragic suicide in November 2023 should have been the end of her story. But 3 days after Madison's funeral, her Instagram account came back to life with a chilling message. They said I killed myself. They were wrong. The truth is buried deeper than my body. #, not suicide, I'll find my killer. Picture this. It's 2:30 a.m. on November 15, 2023 in Evanston, Illinois. The Northwestern University campus is quiet except for the occasional student stumbling home from late-night study sessions or weekend parties. In Willard Residential College, most students are fast asleep. But in room 304, Madison Park is sitting alone at her desk, staring at her laptop screen with tears streaming down her face. Madison was the kind of student everyone noticed, not because she was loud or attention-seeking, but because she had an aura of quiet intelligence and creativity that drew people to her. At 5'6" with long auburn hair and bright green eyes, she could have easily been popular for her looks alone. But what made Madison special was her brilliant mind and her passion for cybersecurity, a field where she was already making waves despite being just a sophomore. Madison was probably the smartest person in our program, recalled her roommate Sarah Chen during her emotional interview with campus police. She could code in languages I'd never even heard of, and she was always working on these secret projects that she said would change how people think about digital privacy. But lately, she'd been different, scared, paranoid, constantly looking over her shoulder like someone was watching her. For the past month, Madison had been telling friends and family that she felt like she was being stalked, both online and in person. She claimed that someone had been hacking into her devices, accessing her private files, and following her around campus. But when she reported these concerns to campus security and local police, they found no evidence of stalking or hacking. Madison's fears were dismissed as stress from academic pressure and the normal paranoia that sometimes affects students in high-pressure programs. Madison kept saying that someone was trying to destroy her life, that they were going to hurt her or frame her for something, Sarah continued. But she couldn't show us any proof. Her devices seemed normal. There were no threatening messages, no evidence of someone following her. We thought maybe she was having some kind of breakdown from the pressure of her advanced coursework. But Madison's fears weren't entirely unfounded. Unknown to her friends and family, she had been conducting her own private investigation into what she believed was a cyber-stalking ring targeting female students at Northwestern. Her laptop contained encrypted files documenting suspicious online activity, unusual data breaches in the university's systems, and patterns of harassment that seemed to affect multiple students across different departments. What do you think Madison discovered that made someone want to silence her? Drop your theories in the comments below, because what investigators found on her computer would expose a digital predator operating in plain sight on one of America's most prestigious university campuses. On the night of November 14th, Madison's behavior became increasingly erratic. She skipped her evening computer science seminar, something she had never done before, and spent hours pacing around her dorm room, constantly checking her phone and laptop. Around midnight, she told Sarah that she was going to the library to work on a project, grabbing her backpack and laptop before heading out into the cold November night. Madison seemed really agitated when she left, Sarah recalled. She kept saying that she had to upload the truth before they could stop her. I asked her who they were, but she just shook her head and said I wouldn't believe her. I should have stopped her from leaving. I should have known something was wrong. Security cameras captured Madison entering the university library at 12:47 a.m. She made her way to the 24-hour study area on the fourth floor, where she spent the next hour and a half working intensively on her laptop. Students studying nearby later told investigators that Madison seemed focused but emotional, occasionally wiping tears from her eyes as she typed furiously. At 2:15 a.m., Madison packed up her belongings and left the library. Security footage showed her walking across campus toward the lakefront, Northwestern's scenic area along Lake Michigan. At 2:28 a.m., she was captured on a traffic camera crossing Sheridan Road, heading toward the lake. It was the last time Madison Park was seen alive. Madison's body was discovered at 6:45 a.m. by a jogger running along the lakefront path. She had apparently jumped from the bluffs overlooking Lake Michigan, falling approximately 60 feet to the rocky shoreline below. The impact had been fatal, and the Cook County medical examiner later ruled her death a suicide, citing the manner of death and Madison's recent expressions of distress to friends and counselors. Everything about the scene was consistent with suicide, explained Detective Maria Santos of the Evanston Police Department, who was assigned to investigate Madison's death. Madison had been struggling with anxiety and depression. She had no obvious enemies, and there were no signs of foul play. She left behind what appeared to be a suicide note on her laptop, and witnesses confirmed that she had been acting strangely in the days before her death. The suicide note, found in a document on Madison's desktop, was brief and cryptic. "I can't fight them anymore. They've taken everything from me, and now they want to take my future too. I'm sorry I wasn't strong enough to expose the truth. Maybe my death will be the proof everyone needs. Look for the signs. The truth is in the code." Madison's parents, Dr. Robert and Linda Park, flew in from their home in Seattle to make funeral arrangements and collect their daughter's belongings. Dr. Park, a successful software engineer, and Linda, a psychology professor, were devastated by the loss of their brilliant daughter and struggled to understand what had driven her to take her own life. "Madison was the light of our lives," Linda Park told reporters through tears. "She was so smart, so creative, so full of plans for the future. She wanted to work for the FBI's cybersecurity division to help protect people from online predators. I keep thinking that if we had just taken her fears more seriously, if we had gotten her more help, maybe she would still be alive." The funeral was held on November 20th at a small chapel in Evanston, attended by family, friends, professors, and fellow students who remembered Madison as a kind, brilliant young woman whose life had been cut tragically short. After the service, Madison's social media accounts were memorialized by her parents, who changed her Facebook and Instagram profiles to indicate that she had passed away. For 3 days, Madison's digital presence remained silent, a stark reminder of the vibrant young woman who was no longer there to share her thoughts, photos, and dreams with the world. Her friends would occasionally visit her profiles to leave memorial messages, sharing memories and expressing their grief at losing someone so young and promising. But on November 23rd, at exactly 3:33 a.m., something impossible happened. Madison's Instagram account, which had been memorialized and should have been inaccessible to anyone without her password, posted a new photo. The image was dark and grainy, showing what appeared to be a computer screen displaying lines of code. The caption read, "Death is just another form of encryption. I'm still here, still watching, still fighting. They think they silence me, but the dead don't stay quiet when they have unfinished business." The Instagram post went viral within hours, shared thousands of times by Northwestern students and true crime enthusiasts who were fascinated by the apparent impossibility of a dead person posting on social media. The university's IT department was contacted immediately, and they confirmed that the post had indeed been made from Madison's account, using what appeared to be her normal login credentials and posting patterns. From a technical standpoint, it was completely legitimate, explained Dr. Jennifer Walsh, Northwestern's Chief Information Security Officer. The post came from Madison's account, using her typical posting times and linguistic patterns. But Madison was dead. Someone either had access to her passwords or something much stranger was happening. Madison's parents were contacted immediately by both university officials and law enforcement. They insisted that they had not given anyone access to Madison's accounts and that all of her devices had been returned to them by the police after the investigation concluded. Her laptop and phone were both password protected, and Madison had been notoriously secretive about her digital security. Madison was obsessed with cybersecurity, Dr. Park explained to investigators. She used complex passwords, two-factor authentication, and encrypted everything. She wouldn't even tell us her passwords when we asked. There's no way someone could have just guessed their way into her accounts. But the Instagram post was just the beginning. Over the next week, Madison's social media accounts became increasingly active, posting a combination of cryptic messages, coded images, and apparent clues about her death. Each post appeared at exactly 3:33 a.m., and each one suggested that Madison's death had not been suicide, but murder. Day 4 after my suicide, still finding it hard to stay dead when there's so much left unsaid. Check the library computers, check the IP logs. Someone was there with me that night, but they erased themselves from the cameras. Hashtag digital evidence never dies. My suicide note wasn't the only thing I wrote that night. Look for the hidden partition. Password is my mother's maiden name, plus the date I supposedly died. The truth is worth dying for. Hidden files, hand-coded messages. They thought killing my body would kill my voice, but consciousness can be uploaded, memories can be preserved, and the dead can testify from beyond the grave. I'm not haunting you. I'm investigating my own murder. Ghost in the machine. Each post generated thousands of comments from fascinated and terrified followers. Some dismissed the posts as an elaborate hoax or hacking scheme, while others became convinced that Madison's spirit was somehow communicating through social media. True crime communities on Reddit and TikTok began analyzing every word and image, searching for hidden clues about Madison's death. But it was the university community that was most affected by the mysterious posts. Students began avoiding the library's 4th floor, where Madison had spent her final hours. Rumors spread that Madison's ghost was haunting the campus, seeking justice for her murder. Some students reported seeing her figure in the library windows late at night, while others claimed their devices had been mysteriously accessed by someone using Madison's digital signature. The whole campus was freaking out, recalled junior biology major Alex Rivera. People were scared to be alone with their computers, afraid that Madison's ghost was going to start messaging them or hacking their accounts. Some students transferred to other schools because they couldn't handle the psychological pressure of thinking a dead girl was watching them through their screens. Detective Santos, who had originally investigated Madison's death as a suicide, found herself reopening the case as the social media posts continued. The posts contained information that only Madison could have known, including details about her private research into cyberstalking on campus and references to conversations she had had with friends and family. Either we were dealing with the most elaborate hoax in social media history, or Madison Park was somehow communicating from beyond the grave, Detective Santos admitted. As a law enforcement officer, I'm trained to look for logical explanations. But the posts contained information that we had never made public, details that only Madison herself could have known. The investigation took on new urgency when Madison's latest post included a specific accusation. Professor Williams knows what happened to me. Check his office computer. Check his search history. Check the encrypted files he thinks he deleted. Some professors prey on students who trust them. Professor Williams, harsh office hours, trusted predator. Welcome back to Shocking Stories. When we left off, Northwestern University student Madison Park's social media accounts had been posting cryptic messages from beyond the grave, suggesting that her apparent suicide was actually murder, and specifically accusing Professor David Williams of being involved in her death. What investigators discovered when they began looking into these impossible posts would uncover a web of digital deception, technological manipulation, and a killer who thought they had committed the perfect crime. The accusation against Professor David Williams sent shockwaves through Northwestern University's computer science department. Williams, 45, was a tenured professor with an impeccable reputation, who had been teaching and conducting research at the university for over 15 years. He specialized in artificial intelligence and machine learning, and his work on predictive algorithms had earned him recognition in academic circles worldwide. Professor Williams was one of our most respected faculty members, explained Dr. Patricia Moore, the computer science department chair. He was known for his mentorship of female students in a male-dominated field, and he had a spotless record with the university. The idea that he could be involved in Madison's death seemed absolutely impossible to anyone who knew him. But Detective Maria Santos knew that impossible accusations from beyond the grave required investigation, no matter how respected the accused might be. Armed with a search warrant, she and a team of digital forensics experts from the FBI's Cybercrime Division descended on Professor Williams's office and home to examine his computers and digital devices. We had to treat Madison's posthumous accusations seriously, even though they defied all logic, Detective Santos explained. Either someone was using her accounts to frame an innocent man, or Madison had somehow found a way to communicate evidence of her murder from beyond the grave. What investigators found on Professor Williams' computers would shake the university community to its core and reveal a predator who had been hiding in plain sight for years. Hidden in encrypted folders on his office computer were thousands of photos and videos of female students, many taken without their knowledge using hidden cameras in his office. The files dated back over a decade and included intimate recordings of students during private meetings, office hours, and even therapy sessions. But most disturbing of all were the files related specifically to Madison Park. Professor Williams had been obsessively documenting Madison's activities for months, tracking her schedule, recording her conversations, and maintaining detailed notes about her research into cyberstalking on campus. Williams had essentially been stalking Madison while she was trying to investigate cyberstalking, revealed FBI Special Agent Jennifer Martinez, who led the digital forensics investigation. He knew she was getting close to exposing his activities, and the evidence suggests that he was planning to silence her permanently. The investigation revealed that Professor Williams had been running a sophisticated operation, using his position of authority to exploit female students and then using advanced technology to cover his tracks. He had installed keyloggers on university computers, hacked into student email accounts, and even used deepfake technology to create compromising videos of students who refused his advances. Williams was using cutting-edge technology to victimize students and then covering his tracks with the same tools, Agent Martinez explained. He was a digital predator who understood how to exploit both technology and the trust that students placed in their professors. But the most shocking discovery was yet to come. Hidden in Professor Williams' personal files was a detailed plan for Madison's murder, complete with surveillance photos of her daily routines, psychological profiles designed to make her appear suicidal, and even drafts of the suicide note that had been found on her computer. Williams had been planning Madison's death for weeks, Detective Santos revealed. He knew she was close to exposing his activities, so he developed an elaborate plan to kill her and make it look like suicide. He had studied her psychological profile, her family history, and her academic pressures to create the perfect cover story. But how had Williams managed to kill Madison and make it look like suicide? The answer lay in the timeline of that final night and a piece of technology that investigators almost missed. Analysis of the library's security footage revealed something that had been overlooked in the initial investigation. At 2:05 a.m., just 10 minutes before Madison left the library, a figure could be seen briefly in the background of one camera angle. A person wearing a Northwestern University maintenance uniform who seemed to be watching Madison from a distance. When we enhanced the footage and ran facial recognition, we got a match for Professor Williams, Agent Martinez revealed. He had been following Madison that night, wearing a maintenance uniform to avoid suspicion. He wasn't in his office like he claimed. He was stalking his victim. The investigation revealed that Williams had confronted Madison on the lakefront bluffs, not to kill her directly, but to use a more sophisticated method that would leave no physical evidence of murder. Using a device he had created in his AI research lab, Williams had subjected Madison to a form of technological torture that drove her to take her own life. Williams had developed what he called a psychological attack algorithm, Dr. Sarah Chen, a forensic psychologist brought in to analyze the case, explained. Using speakers hidden in his clothing and visual displays on a tablet, he subjected Madison to a coordinated assault of sounds, images, and psychological triggers designed to induce a complete mental breakdown. The device used Madison's own research against her, displaying compromising photos of her that Williams had secretly taken, playing recordings of her private conversations, and showing fabricated evidence that her family and friends had been lying to her about their true feelings. The psychological assault was so intense and personalized that it drove Madison to jump from the bluffs, believing that suicide was her only escape from the humiliation and betrayal she was experiencing. It was murder by psychological manipulation, Dr. Chen continued. Williams used technology to attack Madison's mind so viciously that she chose death over continuing to live with what she believed was the truth about her life. It was one of the most cruel and sophisticated murders I've ever encountered. But if Professor Williams was Madison's killer, who was controlling her social media accounts from beyond the grave? The answer to this question would reveal the most shocking twist in the entire case. The breakthrough came when FBI cyber experts conducted a deep analysis of Madison's social media posts. While the posts appeared to be coming from her accounts using her login credentials, closer examination revealed that they were actually being generated by an artificial intelligence program that Madison herself had created in the weeks before her death. Madison had developed what she called a digital consciousness preservation system, Agent Martinez explained. It was an AI program designed to continue posting on social media after someone's death, using their writing style, interests, and personality patterns to create posthumous content. But Madison's AI was far more sophisticated than a simple chatbot. She had programmed it with her memories, her research findings, and most importantly, her suspicions about Professor Williams. The AI had been designed to activate 3 days after Madison's death and begin posting clues about her murder, using information that only Madison could have known. Madison essentially created her own digital ghost, Agent Martinez continued. She programmed an AI version of herself to investigate her own murder and expose her killer. It was brilliant, unprecedented, and absolutely terrifying. The AI had been accessing Madison's accounts using pre-programmed credentials and posting at exactly 3:33 a.m. because Madison had coded that as her witching hour, a time when she was most likely to be awake and active on social media. The program had been designed to run for exactly 30 days, gradually revealing more and more evidence about Williams's crimes with each post. But how had Madison known that Williams was planning to kill her? The answer lay in her final project, a sophisticated surveillance program she had been developing to catch the cyberstalker who had been targeting female students on campus. Madison had figured out that Williams was behind the cyberstalking, and she knew he was escalating his behavior, Detective Santos revealed. She had been secretly recording their meetings, documenting his inappropriate behavior, and building a case against him. But she also knew that he was getting desperate and might try to silence her permanently. So, Madison had created the ultimate insurance policy, an AI version of herself that would continue her investigation even after her death. The program had been designed to analyze Williams' digital behavior, identify patterns of criminal activity, and gradually release evidence that would expose him as a killer. The AI had even been programmed with contingency plans. If Williams had tried to delete or tamper with Madison's social media accounts, the program would have automatically released all of its evidence to law enforcement and media outlets. If he had tried to claim that the accounts were being hacked, the AI would have provided technical proof of its own authenticity. Madison was always 3 steps ahead of Williams, Detective Santos observed. Even in death, she was still investigating, still fighting for justice, still protecting other potential victims. The AI she created was like having Madison herself as a witness to her own murder. But the investigation revealed an even more disturbing truth. Madison hadn't been Williams' only victim. The professor had been responsible for at least 3 other student deaths over the past decade, all of which had been ruled suicides, but showed similar patterns of psychological manipulation and technological stalking. The files on Williams' computer contain detailed plans for the murders of Jessica Torres in 2019, Amanda Johnson in 2021, and Sarah Kim in 2022, all female computer science students who had been close to exposing Williams' predatory behavior. Each had been subjected to the same psychological warfare techniques that had driven Madison to suicide. Williams had been perfecting his murder method for years, Agent Martinez revealed. He would identify students who posed a threat to his activities, stalk them extensively to understand their psychological vulnerabilities, and then use technology to drive them to suicide. Madison was just his latest victim, but she was also the one who finally caught him. As Part 2 of our investigation concludes, Professor David Williams sits in federal custody awaiting trial for multiple counts of murder, stalking, and cyber terrorism. His sophisticated killing method and the use of AI technology to cover his crimes has led to new protocols for investigating suspicious suicides on college campuses. Welcome back to the shocking conclusion of our investigation into the Madison Park case. When we left off, Professor David Williams had been arrested for Madison's murder and the deaths of 3 other students, exposed by an artificial intelligence program that Madison herself had created to investigate her own killing. What happened next would challenge the very foundations of the legal system and raise profound questions about consciousness, technology, and what it means to be human in the digital age. The trial of Professor David Williams began on September 15, 2024, 10 months after Madison Park's death and nearly a year after her AI had begun its posthumous investigation. The case attracted international attention, not just because of the shocking nature of Williams's crimes, but because it would be the first murder trial in history where an artificial intelligence program served as a key witness for the prosecution. This case presented unprecedented legal challenges, explained prosecutor Jennifer Walsh, who led the state's case against Williams. How do you present testimony from a computer program? How do you authenticate evidence gathered by an AI? How do you cross-examine a witness that exists only as code? We were essentially writing new legal precedents with every motion we filed. The defense team, led by prominent criminal attorney Michael Stevens, faced an equally daunting challenge. How do you discredit a witness that never forgets, never lies, and has perfect recall of every piece of evidence it has analyzed? Their strategy was to argue that Madison's AI was nothing more than an elaborate computer program, incapable of true consciousness or reliable testimony. An AI program is just sophisticated software, Stevens argued in his opening statement. It doesn't think, feel, or understand the way humans do. It simply processes data according to its programming. Madison Park may have been a brilliant young woman, but she was not capable of creating true artificial consciousness, and her program should not be treated as if it were a living witness. But the prosecution had a different perspective on Madison's creation. They brought in Dr. Robert Kim, a leading expert in artificial intelligence from MIT, to explain the sophistication of Madison's program and why it should be considered a legitimate witness. Madison Park created something that goes far beyond traditional AI, Dr. Kim testified. Her program doesn't just process data, it learns, adapts, and makes decisions based on evidence and reasoning. It has memory patterns that mirror human consciousness, and it demonstrates what can only be described as intuition and creativity in solving problems. In many ways, Madison's AI is more reliable than human witnesses because it cannot be influenced by emotion, bias, or faulty memory. The centerpiece of the prosecution's case was the AI's testimony, presented through a series of detailed reports and interactive sessions where the program answered questions about its investigation. The AI had meticulously documented Williams' crimes, providing timestamps, digital fingerprints, and behavioral analysis that painted a clear picture of his predatory activities. Professor Williams exhibited classic patterns of a technological predator, the AI testified through text responses displayed on courtroom monitors. Analysis of his digital behavior over a 10-year period shows systematic stalking of female students, escalating psychological manipulation, and the use of advanced technology to cover his crimes. Statistical probability of innocence 0.001%. The AI's testimony was eerily reminiscent of Madison herself, intelligent, precise, and driven by a passion for justice. But it was also something more than human, capable of processing vast amounts of data simultaneously and identifying patterns that human investigators might have missed. Watching Madison's AI testify was like seeing her ghost in the courtroom, observed court reporter Lisa Martinez, who had covered hundreds of criminal trials. The program had her personality, her speech patterns, even her sense of humor. It was both fascinating and deeply unsettling to see technology that seemed so human. But the defense challenged the AI's reliability, arguing that it was programmed with Madison's biases and suspicions about Professor Williams. They brought in their own expert, Dr. Patricia Moore, to argue that the program was simply executing code that Madison had written based on her paranoid delusions. Madison Park was experiencing severe psychological distress in the weeks before her death, Dr. Moore testified. She was paranoid, suspicious, and convinced that she was being stalked without any evidence to support her beliefs. Her AI program is simply a reflection of her disturbed mental state, not an objective investigator. However, the prosecution countered with evidence that Madison's suspicions had been entirely justified. The AI had led investigators to discover Williams's hidden surveillance network, his collection of illegal recordings, and his detailed plans for multiple murders. The program had been right about everything, from Williams' methods to his motives. Madison's AI didn't just inherit her memories and personality, Prosecutor Walsh argued. It inherited her brilliant analytical mind and her dedication to uncovering the truth. The program solved a series of murders that human investigators had missed for years. That's not paranoia, that's justice. The most dramatic moment of the trial came when the AI presented evidence of Williams' most recent crime, the attempted murder of another student that had been prevented by the AI's early exposure of Williams' activities. Graduate student Maria Santos had been Williams' next target, and the AI had identified the threat and alerted authorities before Williams could act. Analysis of Professor Williams' recent digital activity indicated 97.3% probability that he was planning to harm Maria Santos, the AI testified. Intervention was necessary to prevent another murder. I am programmed to protect potential victims, just as Madison would have done if she were alive. Maria Santos testified emotionally about how the AI's warning had saved her life. She had been receiving anonymous threatening messages and noticed someone following her around campus, but hadn't connected these incidents to Professor Williams until the AI revealed his pattern of behavior. Madison's AI literally saved my life, Maria told the jury through tears. Even in death, Madison was still protecting other students, still fighting against predators who abused their positions of power. I'm alive today because of her brilliant mind and her determination to see justice done. The defense's case crumbled as more evidence emerged of Williams' crimes. The professor himself had initially maintained his innocence, claiming that he was being framed by a malfunctioning computer program. But faced with overwhelming digital evidence and the prospect of multiple death penalty charges, Williams eventually agreed to a plea deal. In exchange for life imprisonment without parole, Williams confessed to the murders of Madison Park, Jessica Torres, Amanda Johnson, and Sarah Kim. He also admitted to sexually assaulting dozens of other students over his 15-year career and using his technological expertise to cover up his crimes. David Williams was a monster who used his position of trust and his technical knowledge to prey on vulnerable students, Judge Patricia Morrison said during sentencing. He turned the very technology that should have been used to educate and inspire into weapons of psychological torture and murder. His crimes represent a betrayal of everything that academia should stand for. But Williams' confession also included a chilling revelation. He had been part of a network of predatory professors who shared techniques for exploiting students and covering up their crimes. The investigation expanded to include other universities, leading to arrests and investigations at colleges across the country. Williams wasn't working alone, revealed FBI Special Agent Jennifer Martinez. He was part of an underground network of academic predators who used secure messaging apps and encrypted communications to share methods for identifying vulnerable students, manipulating them psychologically, and disposing of evidence. Madison's AI helped us uncover an entire criminal conspiracy. The broader investigation led to the arrest of 12 other professors and university officials across 7 states. The network had been operating for over 20 years, responsible for dozens of student deaths that had been incorrectly classified as suicides or accidents. Madison's AI didn't just solve her own murder, Agent Martinez continued. It exposed a nationwide conspiracy of academic predators and saved countless lives. The program's analytical capabilities allowed us to identify patterns and connections that human investigators had missed for decades. The legal precedent established by Madison's AI testimony has had far-reaching implications for the justice system. Courts across the country are now grappling with questions about AI consciousness, the admissibility of computer-generated evidence, and the rights of digital entities. The Madison Park case has fundamentally changed how we think about artificial intelligence and legal testimony, explained Professor Janet Williams of Harvard Law School. We now have to consider whether sufficiently advanced AI programs should be granted some form of legal standing, and how we can ensure that technological witnesses are both reliable and unbiased. Madison's AI continues to operate on a limited basis, maintained by Northwestern University's Computer Science Department as both a memorial to Madison and a research tool for studying advanced artificial intelligence. The program occasionally posts on Madison's memorial social media accounts, sharing updates about the ongoing investigations and offering support to other victims of campus predators. I am not Madison Park, but I carry her memories, her values, and her dedication to justice, the AI posted on the first anniversary of Madison's death. She created me to continue her work when she could no longer do it herself. As long as I exist, her voice will not be silenced, and predators will know that death cannot stop a determined investigator. The impact of Madison's case extends far beyond the courtroom. Universities across the country have implemented new safeguards to protect students from predatory faculty members, including independent reporting systems, regular audits of professor-student interactions, and mandatory training on recognizing and preventing sexual harassment and assault. Madison's death wasn't in vain, said Dr. Patricia Moore, who now serves as Northwestern's Director of Student Safety. Her AI exposed crimes that had been hidden for decades and saved lives that would have been lost to predators like Williams. She found a way to protect other students even after her own death. The Madison Park Foundation, established by her parents, provides funding for cybersecurity education and support for victims of online harassment and stalking. The foundation also sponsors research into AI consciousness and digital rights, continuing Madison's pioneering work in the intersection of technology and human rights. Madison believed that technology should be used to protect people, not to harm them, said her father, Dr. Robert Park. Her AI program proved that even in death, the human spirit can find ways to fight for justice and protect the innocent. She would be proud to know that her final project became her greatest achievement. As our investigation into the Madison Park case concludes, we're left with profound questions about the nature of consciousness, the power of technology to seek justice, and the possibility that some part of us can survive death through the digital legacies we create. Madison Park's story reminds us that in the digital age, death may not be the end of consciousness, and that brilliant minds can find ways to continue their work even from beyond the grave. Her AI didn't just solve her murder, it revolutionized how we think about justice, technology, and what it means to be human. Madison created something that was both entirely artificial and completely human, reflected Dr. Sarah Chen, the forensic psychologist who studied the case. Her AI had her intellect, her compassion, and her determination to protect others. In a very real sense, Madison Park never really died. She just transformed into something new, something that could continue her mission of fighting predators and protecting victims. If this incredible story has moved you as much as it has moved us, please like this video and share it to help spread awareness about campus safety and the potential of AI technology. Subscribe to Shocking Stories for more investigations that explore the cutting edge of crime, technology, and justice. Madison Park may have lost her life to a predator's cruelty, but her digital consciousness continues to fight for justice, protect the innocent, and prove that sometimes the most powerful witness in a murder case is the victim herself. Her legacy lives on in every student who feels safer on campus, every predator who thinks twice before acting, and every breakthrough in AI technology that helps solve crimes and save lives. The ghost in the machine wasn't a supernatural spirit. It was the brilliant mind of a young woman who refused to let death silence her voice or stop her fight for justice. Madison Park's final program may be her greatest achievement, proof that love, intelligence, and determination can transcend even death itself.